Sabbath can be a point of tension for people. We all know, we all read the scripture. God commands us to rest. Even intellectually, we probably know the benefits of rest. And then we have our to-do list. Okay, Mi Young, I am so glad that you've come back this summer and joined us for our Summer Sabbath series. These have been like the best episodes, short and sweet. And I think every person listening to this is learning that, you know what, the overall principle of Sabbath is that we want rest, recreation, and, recreation, but very emphatically that we're recreating in our soul realm, our heart and spirit. But what we're discovering with every guest is it looks so different for everyone based on personality. Now, all of us, the thing we've got in common is that we all lead in some capacity. And, there is no doubt that Sabbath can be a point of tension for people. We all know, we all read the scripture. God commands us to rest. Even intellectually, we probably know the benefits of rest. And then we have our to-do list and we have our opportunities and our goals. Okay, the reality is that none of us can go and sit on a Greek island and be in a monastery for the next 5 years and go, awesome, I'm having a time of
Yeah,
silence and
yeah, yeah,
solitude and reflection.
yeah,
Nobody in this summer series is that. So
yeah.
I'm interested, and I know everyone listening is going, okay, so Mi Young, you're a lawyer, you head up, the legal team at a global organization. How does Sabbath and rest, what does it look like for you?
Honestly, I think it's something that I'm struggling with myself. And as you know, I work remotely from Hawaii. And part of the reason, I mean, obviously my parents and my family live here, but I think God also brought me here to be like, if you don't know how to rest in Hawaii, something's wrong with you. Just like you cannot get slower from Hawaii. But sometimes I get stressed out because I think there's that. As you know, I'm one of those, you have those personality tests, and I'm very like, follow the rules. I mean, I got to put my 8 hours in, and oh my gosh, I have to be ethical. So I'm working remotely. So I want to make sure even more than, so I think I wake up and I'm like the last one. So, all the Europeans, Australia, Asia, they're all done. So I get a million emails and I start freaking out. And then minute I wake up, like I shouldn't do this, right? You should get up, brush your teeth. I look at my phone. Okay, anything urgent, I check my text messages. Anything from Nick, anything from Phil, anything crazy, anything blown up. Okay, I'm safe. Okay, then look at my quick emails. That's not, I'm telling you all the things you shouldn't do that I'm still trying to break. Because I think the problem is if you live a life like that on a daily basis, then it's hard to go on Sunday. Well, I'm just gonna, let it all go. So I think the first thing I started to realize was that I needed something, was my body started responding and like neck tension and this stuff going on. And then I didn't realize, but I started to just normally have my neck start to just be tense. And I had to actually realize, I started to tell my neck, don't be tense. And then my neck would relax. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize I was inadvertently tense, and I would be taking bar classes and my bar instructor would say, oh, don't tense up your neck. And I'm like, I think that was my natural state of being. So I think what's hard is that we work in a society, especially, America, right? But I think also Asian societies, Korean Americans have some of that coming along, where you're applauded for being a hard worker, right? So it's a good quality, right? And I mean, Chris, you and Nick are my employers. Should be like, don't work hard, right? I remember Nick was like, I'm not worried about Mi Young, working remotely. And so I think part of that is you're given a pat on the back for working hard. So you don't see that as a bad thing. And I think also with nonprofits, you're never going to finish your job. That's part of the job, is you get more than you could do. So you have to put your own stop. There's always something going on, but you always have this feeling of, I'm going to push through. I'm going to push through. But there's a point where God's like, really? And I think with and it always becomes spiritual, right? Because the enemy is not going to have me say that, go do something bad and wrong, right? He's just going to keep me busy, right? And so when you're busy, you can't really, if you're not rested, you can't really uh, be focused on what God really wants you to be. And He's more and I think the Lord really cares more about where the being than the doing. But then in your heart, you're like, well, but God, you told me to do this. I'm confused. Okay, you want me to do this, but then you wanted me to be at this, like, what's going on. So I'm still struggling with this, but I do think one of the things I felt very convicted of was God finished everything on the sixth day, and then on the seventh day he rested. So as I'm going through this, I'm like, so so does that mean I can't go grocery shopping on the seventh day? So then I started getting legalistic, right? Like, do I go home and stare at the wall? I mean, like, what is rest, right? So I don't know. You tell me. So I'm trying to figure it out myself. So if I don't do that, then on Monday am I more stressed out because I have a full day. Plus, I have no food to eat because I didn't go grocery shopping I have no idea how it looks like. So I'm trying to, but someone, a prophet named David Wagner once told me as he prayed over me, run as you rest and rest as you run. So I think there's that resonates in my spirit. So I'm like, how do I do that? And so I'm trying to press into that and figure out what that means. I think I'm doing it a little bit better in Hawaii because everyone's so chill here. So you do like look a little bit crazy if you're like going too fast or walking too fast or driving too fast. So I do feel like the culture here just has naturally slowed me down a bit, but I think I'm still trying to grapple with what that Sabbath means. So
Myung, I know you've talked a little bit about in the previous episode, which by the way, if anybody missed that, please go back and find Myung's episode. But you talked a little bit about discerning God in the moment to tell you to stop. How do you stay present focused? Because I don't know that I've ever had such a present minded focus to hear God immediately say stop, other than like when I know I'm about to pop off out of anger. Like I can catch it then. But just in my regular day to day, when I'm working, things like that, I don't stay present focused like that. Teach me, rebuke me. How do you stay
yeah.
so present minded?
I'm not sure if I'm that present minded. I think my problem is I do too much, and the problem for working with a global organization, I'm sure Christine understands, is it's always working hours for someone. And when you're on the global team, you feel like it's your responsibility. You don't want someone to feel ignored. And so you always want to be that immediate, response to someone. So I feel like I have to really be very intentional by hearing from God about, is it really urgent, or is it that you want to just get it knocked off the list and get it done? And I've had a few
Yeah.
moments where I responded too quickly, right? So I reacted rather than responded, right? So
Oh,
whatever
yeah.
that emotion I was feeling, or uh, whether it was fear, or like, oh my gosh, there's a danger thing, or it was more just to get something done, just to get it, checked off our list, done, whatever. But it actually caused more work because there was that miscommunication rather than pausing. So sometimes I just tell myself, pause, right? Or just wait till the next day unless it's super urgent. I'm not sure if I'm always, I think I hear more if it's something urgent from the Lord, like my spirit, if there's like a ringing or something of that nature. But I think the whole slowdown thing has been more an acknowledgement of, it's been showing up in my physical body. And I think as you get older, when you're in your 20s, you could fake it. You could really fake it because you're young. So your body's like, oh, I could take it all. And you could drink all the coffee you want and sleep 4 hours. And when you get old, you can't do that anymore. And then you really start thinking, oh, what does it mean that my body's a temple and that I have to honor my body? And do I really honor my body unto the Lord? And what does that mean? And I'm still pressing into what that means. But if you don't take a Sabbath, then your body's not going to make it. If your body doesn't make it, then you're not actually going to be able to do what the Lord has called you to do. And Christine, actually, I really do look up to you in that way because I think you're very good with that. You're very diligent. And I remember when I first met you, you had gotten off the plane and we were in Atlanta and you were like at the gym, like I think running for like 20 minutes. I'm like, who does that? No, I don't do that. Still don't do that. And then you just met me, but I understand why, because you're on the road so much that if you don't do that, it's just really difficult to get that done. And I'm still kind of learning, that process and what it looks like so that my body doesn't get, too much from jet lag and figuring that out. But I'm still learning. It's not, sometimes it's not that spiritual, sometimes it's just logical, like your body is actually screaming at you, you can't continue this. And if your body breaks down, it's your own fault for doing that, right? And so it's not just what physical, but it's also like what you put into your body, right? So you could eat all sorts of crap when you're younger, and again, no problem. But when you're older, you can't do that anymore, and you don't think it's spiritual, but it is honoring your body and your time, and that you can really keep that Sabbath. But it's being that disciplined, right? So that how can you have a good Sabbath is you could also, if you had deadlines and you pushed it off, right? You're like, well, now you're working on a Sunday or on a weekend because you missed that deadline because you were procrastinating. So I think it's not to be too hard, because I know, I think I could definitely be more of a hard on myself kind of person, but it's also learning to give yourself grace, which then you could give other people grace. The people I think that are the hardest on other people are the ones who are hardest on themselves first, right? So learning it's okay to be gracious to yourself, then you're gracious to other people. And all that comes down to being able to give yourself a Sabbath, because to give yourself truly a day off, which means not just at the workplace, but your personal obligations as well, I think so.
I think, yeah. And I mean, the goal of it is really something that will truly give you rest, restoration, and show God that you're trusting him, with the rest of the week of going, okay, well, there's 50 things that have to happen, and Lord, only you're going to do it. I do want to say that I don't think the Lord's got a problem with you going and shopping if you need food in the house. I think it's okay. The one thing you are not going to get here is bondage and legalism. I think it's okay, but it's got to work with what is the thing that replenishes your soul and your heart, and that says to the Lord, you get to gaze upon him and his beauty and his majesty, and where you can just be a daughter of God, and you're not doing, you're being. It just doesn't come as naturally for some of us that are wired up certain ways. And so I think doing that, I have to say, it would be just like God to take you to Hawaii. I think that's a really important thing. I always feel that when I'm in Santorini, I go, Lord, I would be so much better at honoring this if I was just here. And, I think it's so important. So to tell me, though, we just want to know, as we wrap up, what do you do for fun?
Honestly, I play tennis. I'm not like you, Chris. I'm not like, I don't want to play you because you'll like kick me, kick my ass. I mean, but I do. I want to put that out there. So, but I do play tennis, and I just have a lot of fun with some friends. I'm just learning it, and just just focusing on the game at that time, and just kind of learning something new. That's it. So,
Okay.
and I'm trying to do something that's more like physical as well for the same reason. So, getting some fresh air and trying to enjoy the outside. I'm not a beach person, so that's the funny thing about all this. So.
I think it's awesome. Well, Mi-young, you've just been such a gift to us, and just thanks. I want to thank you for your honesty, because there are so many people listening to this that would be saying exactly the same thing. I'm still trying to work it out. Can I go shopping? Am I allowed to push the button to cross the street? I mean, what are we talking about when we talk about all of this? And I think I just want to continue to tell people it's okay to breathe. Find a space where you know that God is God and you are not, and you're being replenished and recuperating, and you're trusting him. So if you're doing nothing, do 10 minutes. If you're doing 10 minutes, go to half an hour. If you're going to half an hour, try 2 hours. If I'm just like, let's do bite sizes and have that place. So anyway, so as always, for all of our listeners at home, if you're on the treadmill right now, or you're driving, or you're just going for a walk, or sitting on your couch eating Ben & Jerry's, I just want you to know that we appreciate you, and thank you so much for joining us here on the Propel Women podcast. And I can't wait to see you back here next week. Thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure to subscribe to this channel to get notified every time a new video is posted. We are so glad that you're here, and look forward to seeing you next week. God bless you.